At 2:55 a.m., I heard the garage door, ran downstairs, and found my fiancée in my car with her lover. I woke up to a sound that didn't belong. My phone on the nightstand read 2:55 a.m. The house was quiet, but underneath that silence, I heard the motorized rumble of the garage door. At first, I thought maybe I was dreaming, but the sound kept rolling in, mechanical and slow. The garage door wasn't supposed to be moving at this hour. I hadn't touched the remote, and Clara, my fiancée, was asleep beside me when I went to bed, or at least I thought she was. I slid out of bed barefoot, my chest tight, blood already pulsing hard enough to feel in my temples. I grabbed a hoodie from the chair and slipped it on. I didn't stop to think. I just moved. The stairs creaked as I stormed down, my fists clenched, my body running on a kind of instinct that had nothing to do with calm reasoning. The light under the garage door was glowing. I shoved the door open, ready to face something. But nothing prepared me for what I actually saw. There, in my car, sat Clara. My Clara, the woman I had been planning to marry next year, straddling some man in the driver's seat like she was in her own private nightclub. His hands were on her waist, her head thrown back like the world didn't exist. My car smelled like her perfume mixed with sweat, leather, and the faint burn of gasoline. My voice came out louder than I intended. What the hell is going on in here? They both froze. Clara jerked her head toward me, her hair falling in messy strands around her face. Her eyes widened, not with guilt, but with annoyance, like I had interrupted her fun. The man, still gripping her hips, turned his head with a smirk that made my stomach twist. I didn't think. I lunged forward, yanked the door open, and grabbed the man by the collar of his jacket. He wasn't small, but adrenaline gave me the kind of strength you don't measure. I hauled him out of the car and slammed him against the garage wall hard enough to make the shelves rattle. "Who the hell are you?" I spat, shoving my forearm against his chest. He shoved back, squaring his shoulders, trying to act tough. "Calm down, man. You don't want to do something stupid." His voice was steady, like this wasn't the first time he'd been caught in a situation like this. "Stupid?" I barked. "You're in my car, in my garage, with my fiancée. You think I'm the one being stupid?" Clara scrambled out of the car, her bare feet slapping against the concrete. She grabbed my arm, her voice high-pitched, almost shrill. "Aaron, stop it. Just don't." I shook her off, glaring at both of them. Her face was flushed, her robe hanging loose over lingerie I'd never seen before. Neighbors' porch lights flicked on across the street, shadows shifting in the windows. The sound of shouting carried through the quiet night. The man shoved me again, but when his wallet slipped from his back pocket, it clattered onto the floor. I glanced down and saw the plastic ID card sticking out, his work badge, his name printed clearly, Derek Miller. Alongside it, a photo of him smiling with a woman and 2 kids. A cold realization burned through me. "You're married?" I said, voice low, shaking my head. "You've got kids?" He bent down quickly to snatch the wallet, but I kicked it toward the garage door. It slid across the concrete and landed near Clara's feet. She looked down at it, then back up at me, her lips pressed thin. "This isn't what it looks like," she stammered, her voice cracking. The rage in me hit a new level. "Don't you dare insult me with that line." I shot back. Clara's eyes darted from me to Derek, panic flickering, but also something else. Anger. She wasn't sorry. She was furious that I caught her. The garage light flickered as if the house itself was reacting to the storm breaking inside it. My hands shook, not from fear but from the weight of betrayal pressing down so heavily it felt like it could split me open. Derek tried to push past me toward the driveway, but I shoved him back. "Not so fast. You don't get to just crawl out of here like nothing happened." By now, 2 of my neighbors had stepped out onto their porches. One of them, Mr. Lawson, a retired cop, pulled out his phone, holding it up, recording the scene. Clara hissed at me to stop, but her words were drowned out by the distant wail of sirens. Someone had already called the police. Derek finally ripped himself free, his voice rising. "If you touch me again, I'll have you arrested. You hear me?" I laughed bitterly. "Arrested? You broke into my garage. You're in my damn car. And you're screwing my fiancée." Clara shouted over me. "Aaron, please, stop yelling. You're making this worse than it is." "Worse?" I turned to her, the weight of everything slamming into me all at once. "You're in my car at 3 in the morning with another man, and you're worried about me making it worse?" The driveway lit up red and blue as the police cruiser pulled up. The officer stepped out, hand on his belt, scanning the scene. "What's going on here?" I pointed at Derek, who was straightening his jacket like he was walking into a meeting. "I caught this guy in my garage with my fiancée. In my car." The officer's eyes flicked between the 3 of us. "Everyone calm down. Let's talk this out." Clara rushed forward, her voice dripping with tears she hadn't shed a second earlier. "Officer, it's not what it looks like. Aaron just misunderstood. The officer raised a hand. Ma'am, step back. I need to hear from him first. He nodded at me. I explained everything as quickly as I could, my words sharp, every detail pouring out. The officer listened, writing something down. Then he turned to Derek. Derek shrugged. We weren't doing anything illegal. Just talking. Talking. I barked. With her on your lap in lingerie? The officer gave Derek a look that said he wasn't buying it. Sir, do you live here? Derek shifted uncomfortably. No. Then you have no business being in this garage at 3 in the morning. Do you understand how this looks? Clara's face was pale now, her act slipping. She looked smaller somehow, her defiance crumbling as the officer's flashlight swept over her. The officer didn't arrest anyone. He just told Derek to leave immediately and warned Clara that the neighbor's statements matched mine. Derek stormed out, grabbing his wallet on the way, muttering something about me being a psycho. His car, parked half a block down, screeched away into the night. That left Clara standing barefoot in the driveway, arms wrapped around herself, the entire neighborhood watching. I didn't care about the whispers. I didn't care about the eyes staring. I turned to her, my voice flat. Get inside. We'll talk later. But even as I said it, I knew there wasn't going to be a talk. There wasn't going to be a calm explanation or some pathetic attempt at forgiveness. Something had broken in that garage, something that couldn't be patched together with half-hearted apologies. Clara followed me inside silently, her head bowed, the sound of the garage doors shutting echoing like the final beat of a drum. I climbed the stairs, my hands still trembling, my chest still heavy. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, my mind racing in 1,000 directions. I didn't know what the next move would be, but I knew this. It wasn't going to be silence. It wasn't going to be letting them walk away free. Something deeper than anger had settled inside me, something colder. The kind of cold that doesn't fade when the sun comes up. The night after the garage confrontation blurred into morning without sleep. I sat in the living room with the curtains half drawn, staring at the faint glow of the street lamps fading into daylight. Clara had slunk upstairs after the police left, muttering something about how I had humiliated her. I didn't follow. I didn't need to hear excuses. My ears still rang with Derek's smug tone, the neighbor's whispers, and the officer's thinly veiled disdain for the whole circus. When I finally stood up, the sun was rising. My phone buzzed on the table. Dozens of messages, half from neighbors, some from mutual friends who had already heard something, and one from Sean, my best friend since high school. Heard something went down last night. You good, man? I stared at the text for a long time. Sean lived 2 streets over, but he hadn't shown up when the cruisers did. That didn't sit right. He usually appeared the moment he sniffed trouble. Something about the timing of his message felt off, but I shoved it to the back of my mind. There were bigger things to handle. Clara came downstairs around 8, eyes puffy, hair tied back like she had been crying all night. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, twisting her fingers. Aaron, I know how it looked, but... I cut her off with a sharp hand gesture. Don't insult me. Don't even try. You were caught in the act. I don't want a speech. I want honesty. She flinched, her lips tightening. For once, she didn't have a rehearsed excuse. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she muttered. That one sentence told me everything. It hadn't been a one-time mistake. This had been planned, orchestrated. I leaned back, my chest burning with disgust. You're lucky I didn't press charges against him, I said coldly. But this isn't over. She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled it away. Her eyes watered, but I noticed the way her jaw clenched. She wasn't broken by guilt. She was calculating. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to yell anymore. I wasn't going to waste words. From now on, every move I made was going to matter. The next few days, I started gathering evidence. At work, I logged into our joint credit card account, scrolling through charges that didn't add up. Hotel stays in downtown I never went to. Restaurant bills for 2 at places Clara never invited me. Gas charges on nights she told me she was with her sister. One particular charge stood out, a jewelry store receipt from 2 weeks ago. Clara hadn't been wearing anything new, which meant the gift hadn't been for herself. I printed the statements, slid them into a folder, and locked it in my desk drawer. At home, I watched her closely. Clara tiptoed around me, cooking dinners she never used to make, trying to act like a doting partner. But every night, she spent longer on her phone, screen angled away from me. One evening, I slipped into the living room after she fell asleep and checked her phone where it lay charging. Most of the texts with Derek had been deleted, but one thread wasn't. Messages with Sean. My stomach dropped as I scrolled. It wasn't outright romantic, but it was too familiar, too comfortable. Late-night check-ins. He's acting weird tonight. Don't worry, I'll come by tomorrow. And his reply, always here for you. The bile rose in my throat. Sean, the guy who toasted me at our engagement party, the one who promised to be my best man. I had told him everything about Clara, trusted him like a brother. And here he was, sliding into the role of her confidant, maybe more. I didn't smash the phone. I didn't confront her. I just slipped it back onto the charger and walked away. If I exploded now, she'd wriggle out like she always did. I needed a bigger plan. 2 days later, Sean showed up at my door. He brought coffee and donuts like it was some casual visit, like we hadn't just lived through the ugliest scene of my life. "Man," he said, sitting at the counter. "I wanted to check in. I know things have been rough since you know." He trailed off, avoiding eye contact. I studied him closely. He looked nervous, jittery, like he was holding back something. Clara came down the stairs, and the way she looked at him, just for a split second, confirmed what I already knew. There was something between them, even if it hadn't gone physical yet. I forced a smile. "Appreciate it, Sean. Really, you've always been there for me." He relaxed a little, sipping his coffee. He thought I was blind. He thought I hadn't seen the late-night texts, the little smirks Clara gave him. I decided right then, if Clara was going to betray me with one man, and maybe two, I was going to use all of it. Every secret, every lie, every connection. The following week, I started setting traps. First, I left my phone in Clara's car, recording audio. That evening, when she drove to the gym, I sat at my desk with my earbuds in, listening live through the cloud sync. She didn't go to the gym. She met Derek in a parking lot 2 towns over. The recording caught everything, every laugh, every whisper about how they had to be careful since the neighbors were watching now. Second, I baited her with fake plans. I told her I had an overnight work trip. Instead, I parked 2 streets away and watched our house. At 11 p.m., Sean pulled into my driveway. He didn't go inside immediately. He hesitated at the porch, then knocked softly. Clara opened the door in a silk robe. She let him in without a word. I stayed until 2 a.m., watching the lights shift from the living room to the upstairs bedroom. I didn't need a recording for that. I had eyes, but it didn't stop there. One afternoon, Clara's younger sister, Denise, called me out of nowhere. She sounded nervous, her voice low, like she didn't want to be overheard. "Aaron, listen," she said. "I don't know what Clara's told you, but she borrowed money from me. A lot. She said it was because you were controlling about finances. But now I don't know. I feel like she dragged me into something." "How much?" I asked. $5,000. She said she needed it for car repairs, but now I think she used it for hotel rooms." "Aaron, I'm sorry. I didn't want to tell you, but..." I thanked her and hung up. My chest tightened with both rage and grim satisfaction. Clara wasn't just cheating. She was stealing, lying to her own family, manipulating everyone in reach. This was bigger than just a fling. It was a whole web of betrayal, and I was at the center of it. That night, Clara tried to sit next to me on the couch, acting like we were normal again. She leaned her head on my shoulder, scrolling through her phone. I stared at her reflection in the black TV screen, smiling faintly at whatever Sean was typing back. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just thought about how all the threads were lining up. Derek, Sean, the debt, the lies. And I realized something that chilled me more than anger ever could. I wasn't planning on forgiving her. I was planning on ending her. Not with fists, not with shouting, but with something far sharper. A reckoning. By the end of the second week, I had everything I needed. Bank statements, recordings, photographs, eyewitness accounts. Clara had no idea how much evidence I had stacked up against her. She floated through the house trying to act normal, planning our engagement dinner with her parents, as if she wasn't hiding an entire double life. When she announced at breakfast that her parents had booked the country club for a formal dinner, I almost laughed. It was the perfect stage. She thought she was presenting us as the perfect couple. In reality, she was about to stand in the spotlight while I pulled every hidden string. I said nothing. I kissed her cheek like nothing had changed and told her I'd wear the new suit she bought me last month. Inside, I was already rehearsing the order of revelations, like a conductor preparing to raise the baton before the orchestra bursts. The night of the dinner, the club was glowing with chandeliers and polished silver. Guests in suits and dresses mingled near the bar, laughing, sipping champagne. Clara wore a deep blue gown, her hair styled perfectly, her smile as dazzling as ever. To anyone else, she looked like the picture of elegance. To me, she looked like a ticking time bomb. Her parents, Raymond and Paula, were already greeting guests at the head table, full of pride. I walked beside Clara, shaking hands, pretending to be the dutiful fiancé. Inside my jacket pocket, my phone buzzed softly, scheduled messages beginning to deliver to inboxes and group chats. Evidence packets sent to key people, like a storm cloud rolling over a sunny day. The first to notice was Denise, Clara's sister. She was pouring herself a glass of wine when her phone lit up. She froze mid-motion, her face draining of color. She looked up at Clara, then at me, her mouth tightening. I gave her the smallest nod. She understood. Dinner began with polite speeches. Raymond toasted a family. Paula gushed about her future grandchildren. Clara held my hand under the table, squeezing like she owned me. I squeezed back once, hard, and then let go. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, lifting my glass. My voice carried across the room with practiced calm. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It means the world to celebrate with family and friends. And I especially want to thank Clara for teaching me the value of truth. Clara beamed at me, thinking I was about to flatter her. But then the phone started buzzing. Guests looked down at their screens, their expressions shifting from polite smiles to sharp frowns. Whispers rippled across the tables. Clara's smile faltered. She reached for my arm, whispering urgently, "Aaron, what's happening?" I raised my voice just enough to cut through the murmurs. "What's happening, Clara, is that everyone here now knows what I've known for weeks. The late-night meetings, the hotel rooms, the money you borrowed behind my back, the nights you spent with Derek in my car, in my house. And when that wasn't enough, the nights you spent with Sean." Gasps broke out. Denise dropped her glass, shattering it on the floor. Paula clutched her husband's arm, her eyes wide with horror. Clara stood so quickly her chair tipped over. "That's a lie," she shrieked, her voice cracking. But before she could continue, the double doors burst open. A woman stormed in, dark hair, eyes blazing with fury. Derek's wife. She marched straight toward Clara, holding up the packet of photos I had sent her. "You thought I wouldn't find out?" she spat. "You thought you could sneak around with my husband and destroy your own fiancée at the same time?" The room erupted in chaos. Guests whispered louder, some pulling out their phones, recording. Sean, pale and sweating, stood from his seat at the far end of the table. "Aaron, come on, man, you're blowing this out of proportion." Before he could finish, another voice cut through the noise. His girlfriend, standing near the bar, phone in hand, tears streaking her cheeks. She held up her screen, text from Sean to Clara lighting up the room. "You lying bastard," she screamed. "You told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. But you were planning this whole time." She threw her drink in his face, the red wine splashing across his shirt. Gasps turned into laughter, half the room delighting in the spectacle. Sean wiped his face, glaring at me like I had betrayed him, as though I hadn't just exposed the truth he'd buried. "You set me up," he snarled. I stepped closer, my voice low enough for him, but loud enough for the nearest guests. "No, Sean, you set yourself up. I just pulled the curtain." Clara was trembling now, her eyes darting around the room, realizing every lie had collapsed at once. She reached for her mother, but Paula stepped back. "How could you do this to him?" "To us?" she hissed. Raymond, usually a man of calm restraint, stood and slammed his hand against the table. "You have shamed this family." His voice thundered, silencing even the whispers. "You lied to us, you lied to him, and you dragged your sister into it." He looked at Denise, who was quietly crying at her seat. "No more. You're cut off. Don't come to us for money. Don't come to us for support. You are on your own." Clara's knees buckled. She looked around, searching for an ally. Derek's wife was glaring at her. Sean's girlfriend was tearing into Sean. Her parents were disowning her. Denise was in tears. And me? I just stood there, glass in hand, watching her drown in the consequences she had poured for herself. The chaos stretched on. Derek himself never showed, probably too cowardly to face the fallout. Sean stormed out, chased by his girlfriend screaming that he'd never see her again. Paula guided Denise out of the room, muttering about damage control. Raymond stayed seated, sipping his drink, his face hard as stone. Clara collapsed back into her chair, her mascara streaking down her face. "Please, Aaron," she whispered hoarsely, "don't do this. Don't leave me like this." I leaned down, my words sharp as glass. "This isn't me leaving you, Clara. This is everyone finally seeing you." I straightened, placed my glass on the table, and walked out. The room buzzed behind me. Gasps, whispers, shouts. Clara's voice rose above them all, screaming my name, but I didn't look back. Outside, the night air felt sharp and clean. I pulled out my phone, checking the notifications. Dozens of confirmations. The evidence had been delivered not only to her family, but to Derek's HR department, to mutual friends, to everyone who mattered. The storm had broken, and there was no shelter for her now. For the first time in weeks, I felt steady. Not healed, not whole, but steady. Clara's lies had rotted everything between us. Now they were rotting her world too. And the worst part for her? I wasn't done yet. The drive home from the country club felt unreal, like I was floating above the world. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was burning. Behind me, the life I had built with Clara had collapsed in a single evening. I hadn't just pulled one thread. I had torn the whole tapestry apart. When I got home, the silence of the house pressed down on me. The engagement photos were still on the mantel. The refrigerator still held her grocery lists scribbled in pink marker. Upstairs, in the closet, her dresses still hung beside my suits. It all looked intact, but it was already a ruin. I poured myself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from friends. Bro, what the hell happened tonight? Others from neighbors who had already seen pieces of the fallout online. Even Derek's wife sent me a 2-word text. Thank you. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and finished the last piece of my plan. I canceled the wedding venue reservation, the honeymoon tickets, the joint lease agreement. I shifted all penalties to Clara's name where possible. Every email sent was like cutting another rope that bound me to her. The next morning, Clara stumbled into the kitchen, eyes swollen from crying. She hadn't come home with me after the dinner. She must have begged Denise to drive her back. Aaron, she started, her voice hoarse. Please, we can fix this. Everyone was angry last night, but we can talk to my parents. We can. I cut her off. Your parents disowned you in front of 50 people. Derek's wife hates you. Sean is finished. And you want to talk about fixing this? Her mouth trembled, but she pressed forward. We can start over. We'll move away, just the two of us. No one else has to matter. I stared at her for a long moment. You burned every bridge you had. You stole money from your own sister. You lied to me. You lied to everyone who ever gave a damn about you. Start over? You already ended it. Her shoulders slumped. She slid into the chair opposite me, burying her face in her hands. For the first time, she didn't look like the manipulative schemer who always had a backup plan. She just looked defeated. But pity wasn't in me anymore. Over the next week, the dominoes fell one by one. First came Derek. His wife filed for divorce, demanding full custody of their kids. She sent HR the evidence I'd given her. Photos of him meeting Clara on nights he claimed to be traveling for work, credit card charges that lined up with company trips. Derek was terminated within days. His career, his marriage, his reputation, all gone. Then came Sean. His girlfriend blasted him on social media, posting screenshots of his late-night texts with Clara. Mutual friends cut him off. His own family, embarrassed by the scandal, stopped returning his calls. When he showed up at my house one night, pounding on the door, I didn't answer. He shouted my name, begged me to talk, but I let him scream into the empty street until the neighbors threatened to call the cops. Clara, meanwhile, spiraled. Raymond and Paula froze her out completely. Denise texted me once, apologizing for ever giving Clara money. She lied to all of us, she wrote. I should have seen it sooner. Clara's friends disappeared too, unwilling to be associated with her now that the truth was public. She tried to go back to work at her marketing firm, but whispers followed her into the office. Colleagues who had seen the leaked photos of her and Derek in parking lots avoided her. Within a month, she was let go. Officially, it was department restructuring. Unofficially, it was because no one trusted her anymore. Through all of it, I stayed silent. I didn't gloat, I didn't lash out. I just lived my life as if she were already gone. I moved into a small apartment downtown, listing the house for sale. Clara begged me not to. She clung to the idea that if I stayed, maybe she could still worm her way back in. One evening, as I packed boxes in the living room, she stood in the doorway, barefoot, eyes red. Aaron, please, don't leave me with nothing. We built this together. You can't just walk away like I'm trash. I didn't even look up from the box I was sealing. You built this. You destroyed this. And I can walk away, because I already did. Her voice broke into a scream. You'll regret this. You think you're better than me, but you'll end up alone. No one will ever love you like I did. I finally met her eyes. That's the point. She froze, like the words had physically struck her. Then she turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. The final scene came 2 weeks later. The house was nearly empty, boxes stacked by the front door. The realtor's for sale sign was hammered into the lawn. I was finishing the last load when I saw her outside, standing by the driveway. No shoes, no makeup, just a broken figure watching me. She called out, voice shaking. Aaron, please, don't do this. I don't have anywhere to go. I need you. I loaded the last box into my car, shut the trunk, and got behind the wheel. Through the window, I saw her tears, her hands trembling. For a split second, I thought about all the years we'd spent together, the vacations, the nights watching movies, the plans we made. Then I remembered the smell of perfume in my car at 2:55 a.m., Derek's smirk, Sean's late-night visits, Denise's tears over money she'd never see again. I started the engine. Clara stepped closer, desperation in her eyes. Aaron, don't drive away. I'll change. I'll do anything. I put the car in gear. And I drove. I didn't look back. The consequences hung heavy in the weeks that followed. Clara drifted between couches, her family refusing her, her former friends avoiding her. Derek vanished into divorce proceedings, Sean into obscurity. Me? I rebuilt. Slowly, carefully. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. I had torn the rod out of my life, and while the scars would stay, the air finally felt clean again. Clara thought she could use me as her safety net, her wallet, her shield. But in the end, she was the one left stranded, while I walked away intact. And that was the hardest karma of all.